There we go. Now they're coming in. We will be starting momentarily, everyone, so just hold on. All right, let's get started. I am the moderator. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the 23rd Annual Pennsylvania Abandoned Mine Reclamation Virtual Conference. I'm Andy McAllister, as you well know, the Regional Coordinator for the Western Pennsylvania Coalition for Abandoned Mine Reclamation. Due to technical issues, you will not be seeing a video image of me, and we apologize for that. However, you will see my name floating out there and my disembodied voice. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, the Pennsylvania Environment Digest, the Appalachian Region Independent Power Producers Association, also known as ARIPA, Ernst Conservation Seeds, Graymont, Tetra Tech, and the Earth Conservancy. We encourage you all to visit the sponsors and thank them and find out what they're all about. Participants may ask questions throughout this session in the session Q&A or chat box to the right of the embedded Zoom player, Box and Huba. And if you have the mobile app, I think it would be below the Zoom player. Questions will be asked of the presenter live by myself or our two hosts, Ann or Mike, time permitting. The session will conclude in about 28 to 30 minutes. Thank you for joining us. And with that, I would like to introduce Tom Shope, the U.S. Office of Surface Mining Reclamation and Enforcement Regional Director for Regions 1 and 2 and Field Special Assistant to the Secretary for Region 1. Did I get that right, Tom?
You sure did. I'm very proud of you. So that's a success right off the bat.
All right, take it away.
Hey, thank you so much. I do greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here. First, I'll apologize for the Principal Deputy Director for OSM who is slated to be here. For those of you that know Lanny, he is very broken up about the not being able to make this work. He was hoping to do this from a car, and it just didn't happen for him. But that is my privilege. So I have big fan, of course, of this conference, and just touching base and tapping into some of the presentations already, it's very clear to see why this group and this conference is the longest running environmental conference on abandoned mine lands in Pennsylvania. It's just a tremendous group of individuals and effort. And kudos, during this crazy, unusual year, to be able to pull off such a successful virtual conference. So congratulations. Just happy to be here. And yes, my title, I wanted to get cards printed up, but the printer said the smallest thing they could get would be index cards. So that's quite a mouthful of titles, but and a lot of things going on with it. But, just focusing again on the conference that we're here talking about, what a great theme, that a clear future for reclamation. With all the things that are going on around us, it sure is easy to see how those lenses can become blurry or smudged. I mean, in the AML reclamation world, of course, fee collection authority, the expiration of that on the horizon, the changing coal industry, which funds the reclamation fund, that too causing lots of questions. And then you add on top of that a global pandemic. You can see 2020 is anything but clear. But as I mentioned, even just seeing the beginning part of the conference, there is reason for optimism. And I'm hoping that today we can talk about some of those reasons for optimism on AML reclamation, because there's a lot of wonderful things that are going on. Just 2 days ago, earlier this week, I had the opportunity to bring Deputy Secretary Kate McGregor, as well as the Deputy Administrator for EPA, on a tour of Western Pennsylvania. And we hit up 4 different key sites that have already, some of them already been talked about during the conference, as well as things that I will bring up. But I just want to pass on to all of you that it's so, one of the reasons we do that is to try and engage those folks who might not be experiencing what all of us on this call or conference do on a more regular basis. And I could just tell you how impressed they both were with the notion of what outstanding achievements are being accomplished and what really can and is being done out in the field. So, we take solace in that and be proud of all the work that you all do, everyone on this conference does, towards making that a success. So without further ado, just want to whip through, because the name is so large and the titles, etc. I am with the Office of Surface Mining out of Pittsburgh. That's our regional headquarters for Appalachian Reef for regions 1 and 2. Our secretary is David Bernhardt, and our principal deputy director is Lanny Erdos, who, as I said, was sorry couldn't make it to us today. I did want to briefly just touch on that weird title that I have, Field Special Assistant to the Secretary, and talk a little bit about that. That extends from an effort and opportunity to look at the way the Department of the Interior was structured, and to say we had, at that time, 49 different regions within all the different bureaus across, and there was a real matrix and crossover of responsibilities. And so a decision was made to realign those regions into 12 unified regions. And that decision was made in last year. Secretary Bernhardt, then we established committees for each one of those regions of the top executives, from the top career executives and from all of the bureaus within a region, forming a council or a committee, a regional executive committee. And then Secretary Bernhardt appointed career folks to be a field special assistant, or to oversee that committee, really being a first among equals. And the committee is not an organizational line authority type position. My job as field special assistant is to get all the different bureau leadership in the field to be working and talking and coordinating together. And that has really been a tremendous benefit to the entire departmental organization. It just, for the first time, it's kind of hard to believe that my counterparts from other bureaus that we had not been regularly and routinely being able to coordinate and talk about things. So we started that late last year, actually early this year, with that whole organization and forming those committees and trying to get some goals established and really focusing on some things. And one of those things actually was abandoned mine land opportunities. So we're starting to look at categorizing where some of the AMR sites are within the National Park Service, for example. We have been working with Park Service units actually in Kentucky, which is part of our region, to look at use OSM expertise to help them identify acid mine drainage problems there and develop some techniques to try and reclaim it or abate that. We've had some crossover with the Fish and Wildlife Service, even doing some bat studies here in Pennsylvania and Flight 93, using some of the technologies that we at the Office of Surface Mining were exploring. AMD Treat, some other presenters, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it, is a crossover effort with not only state government entities, but also the U.S. Geological Survey. So there was a lot of benefit that was coming out of just the idea of, hey, what kind of resources do we have that we can pull together and make the most sense, particularly with constrained resources. So things were starting to take off in early 2020 on that front. And then, of course, we all experienced the wonderful experience of COVID. And that really, while it distracted us from obtaining our regional goals from that committee, what it did do is afford us a great opportunity with COVID, because it is a geographically based problem and situation, to be able to quickly talk amongst each other and discuss what's happening in our areas and our individual geographic locations. Again, sharing ideas, information, and services amongst those organizations. Certainly took me out of my comfort zone as the field special assistant. With my background, I didn't know a whole lot about when it was the appropriate time to close the Washington Monument and Statue of Liberty, but we're certainly learning all of those things, and we have wonderful staff that support us and chance and opportunities to talk through those things. But what it did do was force the COVID experience has really forced some innovation. And I can't tell you how proud I am of our staff within the department, not just in OSM, but across the region, but even within OSM as well in particular, because abandoned mine land, for example, we really didn't miss a beat there. I mean, we certainly had to do some major adaptation to how we handled things, safety, and considering the safety of our staff before we sent them out into particular areas. But we've learned how to gather the right data, looking at the utilizing data and tools to determine when and what mitigation efforts we can take to safely have our folks go out into the field and to safely work with contractors and the citizens. But throughout it all, it was almost having to hold back our staff because they're so eager and excited, or interested in fulfilling the mission and getting out into the field. And that certainly was echoed with the state personnel as well. And as a result, as I mentioned, things got done, even in those crazy circumstances. Pennsylvania, for example, within the past year had 127 authorization to proceed. That's 127 projects moving forward to promote the safety and health of folks in the coal fields. 53 of those projects were emergencies. And so, as I mentioned, we are working carefully with everyone involved to make sure that they could be handled safely, handled appropriately, and we really did meet that demand and need between OSM and the state. Made sure things got done. The results of that were approximately 3,421 acres of land reclaimed. That's one measure that we in the OSM and the federal government looks at and collects from the state data. That's in Pennsylvania alone. And that resulted in removing people from risk of 199,254 individuals removed from risk from an abandoned mine land in Pennsylvania alone. And that's during COVID. So I mention all of that long-winded explanation just to say, well done to our staff to make sure that people were in fact protected. So we in OSM, and probably telling most of the folks that are attending this or listening to it may already know it, but want to make sure that we cover all the bases. 4 major areas that we look at: program oversight within the AML program, AML pilot program, watershed cooperative agreements, and technical assistance. 4 areas that I'd like to really talk a little bit about today in our time together. As far as the program oversight goes, as I've already mentioned, some of those data and statistics that we are involved with doing, but even beyond the actual project-based authorization to proceed or granting them funds to them, we also have a close relationship with our state partners and try and work through with them in a very collaborative, cooperative way. How do we benefit the program the most? And so we've had some committees that have been stood up over the past couple of years to really take a look at very particular areas in association with the National Association of Abandoned Mine Land Programs, as well as the Interstate Mining Compact Commission, taking a look at things like our AML1, that's the directive that OSM puts out to direct state programs receiving money, how to deploy those funds, guidance for that, taking a look at that and making sure that's up to date. A data reporting team. We all recognized particularly with the reauthorization of AML fee coming up next year, that there's a tremendous need to have the same data and all be talking from the same data. So there was an extensive effort between OSM and our state partners to make sure that we are getting the right numbers, that we are all saying things the right way, and trying to make a unified story, to be able to tell the success of the program to date, as well as the remaining need for AML reclamation. We have, there's a system, eAMLIS. We've been taking measures on eAMLIS to improve that. For those of you that are familiar, that is the official system that records every AML area in the country. That's the inventory of sites, and states are required to keep that up to date and available. And it's become, as a lot of the systems that we have in place were antiquated, and we've spent a lot of time, effort, and funds to update that system and recognized how important it is to do that in conjunction with the very people that are using it, our state partners. And so we've had that team going forward and been making progress there, and the EMLS system is being rewritten now. Grants processing, it's a lot of problems associated with grants just because of the complications and interpretations. Even after all these years of doing the program, there's always new issues that come up. And then finally, a messaging group. And that too is just the idea of being able to tell the story. Now I will talk about reauthorization as part of that messaging group. So the current administration has not taken a formal position on reauthorization, but there is a unified understanding and agreement that there is a need for things to that there is still a large problem that exists out there, and that that the AMR program is an outstanding program and one that's doing tremendous level of work. And so we recognize the states working with our state partners is how do we make sure that we are telling this story as to what is taking place. In OSM, we don't have a position to say one way or the other at this point how that reauthorization should look, and I understand that others have addressed that even in this conference and are tracking the various legislative efforts that are moving forward. But what we wanted to make sure that we could provide is that the data is sound and that the story can be told going forward. One of the other areas oops, too touchy here, sorry. The AML pilot program, and again, I've seen some of the reports, even the film festival that we saw earlier covered several of these exciting program opportunities that are taking place in Pennsylvania. And that was a keynote for this trip that I mentioned earlier this week, is just seeing for the first time these very large-scale AML projects that are able to be done, things that would never have been able to be accomplished with the regular AML program. It's just very exciting to see, and in particular in Pennsylvania, where the focus is on truly making sure there's AML reclamation, true AML reclamation that's taking place in conjunction with that economic activity. Through Pennsylvania, that's just through 2019, over $105 million have been made available. That's just through 2019. 25 million came in 2020 that's in process right now. But through those 2019, 52 projects have already been undertaken. And it's not a surprise to, again, folks on this call, for the majority of you, to know what tremendous work has been done. So earlier this week, we did go out to the Steinman pile, and I know that was featured in one of the films earlier this morning. But just, picture is worth 1,000 words. To be able to see what can be done, again, on a large scale, providing economic stimulus, recovering some valuable resources, as well as promoting and protecting the health of that stream that flows right by there. It really is a moving event. I was very pleased to see the large attendance that was there as well. On a cold Monday morning in Cambria County, it was great to see so many folks turn out. So very excited about that. And this is just one example of projects. And of course, even in the same photo, you can see parts of the Ehrenfeld, the award-winning Ehrenfeld project that was last year's National Award winner. So just something that I think we all are very proud of, and everybody involved should be proud of. There's a couple other things we want to touch on. Just the Watershed Cooperative Agreement Program still going strong. This year we've had, there's going to be 12 awards going out this year, $1.5 million. And it really, the beauty of the Watershed Cooperative Agreement Program is that it is so ground level based. The idea that people who are directly impacted and want to make a difference can make a difference, and that this money is being leveraged so incredibly well. Just for a moderate investment, we're getting quite a bit back in return. In fact, if I have my numbers straight, it's about a 4.6 to 1 leveraging ratio that the federal government gets out of providing those WCAP funds to very worthy programs. And so, as I mentioned, This year, 13 new awards, $1.3 million that resulted in leveraging $5,978,000, or a 4.6 to 1 leveraging ratio. So we have a lot of very impressive results there. And again, just a wonderful cooperative effort that is continuing, and we're proud to be a part of that. Some other areas that takes place within OSM on the technical development and tech transfer side of the things, our National Technical Training Program, our TIPS training program. Beautiful things about those are that they are from employees within the department or within a state agency that are teaching other employees. And so you get that real hands-on delivery of information that is so essential, particularly as we see this continuing turnover of individuals within, within both state and federal government. So it's great that that program is able to continue going. And I just wanted to mention as well, during COVID, we were able to continue to do and force some innovation to get more online presentations going with internally. So it's very exciting. Our hardware, software, and geospatial activities, I'll talk a little bit about that in some of the next few slides. Applicant violator system, though I did want to mention that just because a lot of people don't normally attribute that or connect that with AML, but of course, it's important to realize that any AML contractor has to be cleared through AVS. And so that system is another antiquated system that we have, a legacy system that we're currently updating and spending considerable resources to make sure that that system is online and is effective going forward, which would certainly benefit the AML programs to make sure we have qualified contractors that are doing the work. I'm going to slide through a couple of these other things here. The aviation system that we have. So we were a leader in drone technology. I say were because we are currently in a grounding order as a result of some issues that with non-domestically made drones. The Department of the Interior grounded its fleet and extended that grounding to cover federal dollars, prohibit federal dollars from being used on any drone that is not a domestically made drone. The problem, of course, was that there were no domestically made drones or equipment when that grounding order came out. But I am pleased to report that as of a week or so ago, the department has, the department and other federal agencies, I should add, the Department of the Interior was first, but other federal agencies have since joined that grounding order. There have been new drones that have been approved for purchase. Problem being that they have not yet been ramped up in manufacturing. So there's still going to be a continued lag time, but I am reporting to all of you that in fact there is hope on the horizon to once again get for the federal government and for state agencies that are using federal funding to be able to get the drones back in the air, because they are a very useful tool for us. Our area efforts are still continuing on in full force. For those of you that aren't aware, AREA is again another collaborative effort between federal government and state agencies and nonprofits and academia and industry, and has provided tremendous results across Appalachia in reforesting mine lands, both active mine lands as well as abandoned mine lands. And we're very proud of the work that's been done there. I can report to you in 2020, it was a little interesting because our tree planting events had to be curtailed because of COVID. So we had 22 sites actually physically prepared for planting. We were able to get 3 of those in, but the other ones will be made available hopefully as soon as we can clear some of these pandemic problems and get back out planting. But we are still, there's so much opportunity out there for expanding that effort, and we're looking forward to doing just that. One of those efforts is for reforestation is here in Pennsylvania, of course, is at Flight 93. We've done extensive planting work at Flight 93 and helped building that memorial. As you can see on this map that I've put up there, it's been a progressive number of years planning procedure and plan to get trees planted every year, continuing to do more and more parcels. And if you haven't been to Flight 93, you really need to get there. But it's a wonderful way for to commemorate that this former mine site is, a very special place now, of course, because of the accident of the crash of Flight 93. But a way to participate, and make that connection between the past and the future going forward through these wonderful planting events. There's also another unique thing at Flight 93 that many of you may know about, but many may not, that if you look in the center of that picture, there's actually there's water treatment that's taking place on Flight 93. And we have done extensive efforts with Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to put in kind of a world-class passive treatment system there that is working really well. We've held technical transfer events there in the past to demonstrate its success. And as of this week, when we were visiting, I was told that it's still doing incredibly well. So just again, making that whole connection between all the different things that we have, tools that we have available, and making and putting them to their fullest potential. I want to turn a little bit more to some of the field activities briefly as we wrap it up here. Is you've already heard about in one of the slides this morning, Little Conemaugh. That's a result of an extensive, long effort, mind mapping effort, where we were able to see what those mind maps and look at that interconnectivity of those mine pools. And we are looking forward to, as the video showed this morning with Pat Webb, that adding to reducing those Super 7 discharges there and getting continued success on the Little Conemaugh. You also heard mentioned earlier today about AMD Treat. Very pleased about the work there as well. We're moving on to even additional modules for AMD Treat, upgrading that system. It is an impressive system, as was, if you've caught the PADEP presentation just before, a little earlier, before lunch, it's actively used in their system for all of their treatment trust obligations. I'm going to skip forward to some of the other things. Applied science. We are still continuing to do applied science projects. We had an incredible result for our funding opportunity notice of 40-some projects out there. And I want to get to the last but not least is, in light of the time, Executive Orders 13817 and 13953 about rare earth minerals. That was the latter one, 13953, just came out a couple weeks ago. But I want to highlight for all of you that it includes, which the previous one did not, but 13953 includes a section on accelerating and encouraging the development and reuse of historic coal wastes. So we've talked about that, the various projects going on with respect to mine tailings, AMD treatment, AMD sludge material, as well as CCRs. And there's a great promise for potential there, and we're actively working with academia and other federal agencies to see how we can exploit that and make the ultimate win-win for AML reclamation. Being able to get some money out of a waste stream would be the ultimate win-win. With that, I would just say, hey, 2020, while most people would rate that as very bad and would not recommend, there is a lot of reason for optimism within abandoned mine land reclamation. We have a lot of technical things going. There's awareness of it. I am very confident for the future, and look forward to working with all of you as we continue to achieve success in abandoned mine land reclamation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tom. And I do not have any questions on my end. However, I do believe Ann Damon has a question. Ann, if you want to get on and ask your question, or Mike Hewitt, whichever.
Sure. I'm going to read a question from our Q&A, actually. There are quite a few questions for Tom over there. What information is OSMRE providing to Congress on the AML pilot programs as it relates to the consideration of more permanent legislation such as Reclaim, specifically the effectiveness of the program in relation to its intent?
Sure. So there is an annual report that is prepared and is posted on our website on the pilot program report. And that report is made to Congress. That's part of the legislation that report is required, and we are providing that to Congress. I'm not aware of any particular requests from Congress right now, beyond that annual report. But I can tell you that we routinely receive inquiries from various members of Congress asking about the program and particular projects usually. But so we are responding to all those inquiries. OSM has not taken a position, or I should say the Department of the Interior hasn't taken a position on, it's not been in the request, in the President's request for funding, but certainly we've been told, to make sure that we're fulfilling that requirement. And as I demonstrated or mentioned earlier this week, the high-level officials were very pleased with all the activity that's taking place under that program to date.
Next question, do you see PADEP as being successful with the AML pilot projects? And how about other states?
Well, I will just comment on, the answer is yes. From my position as regional director, extremely successful, Pennsylvania. And my pictures, the one that this is Little Conemaugh, by the way, from this week. And that is Little Conemaugh was impacted by the Steinman. That was a project. Ehrenfeld, that was another project. I will see what happens, how the funding is going to be proposed for this other treatment plant that's on the Little Conemaugh. But those are just two microcosms of the 52 projects, or small examples of the 52 projects. So I've been very pleased and proud to sign off on the Pennsylvania projects, because they are focused on AML reclamation in addition to the economic recovery. As far as other states go, people do have taken different approaches, in the sense of the Congress, the legislation is broadly written, and for a reason. It's called a pilot program. And so I would say Pennsylvania is probably the most AML heavy of all the states, meaning that they tie their projects to actual reclamation projects stronger. But other states, we have doing the same types of things, and sometimes they are exploring other opportunities. But that was really the design of that statute, is to try and see what's the potential, what is the possibilities out there. So so far it's been very impressive to see.
Okay, an appointed question. Might we see OSM taking a position on reauthorization of the AML fund?
Well, I will speak as so I'm a career employee, so I will leave that to the political appointees to say when and how. But I would expect, if the past is any indication, and prior reauthorization efforts, administrations have taken positions. So I would expect that to occur, but I can't address when that would occur.
Okay. And one last question. This is rather long, but a DEP letter in 2020 pilot. Oh, it disappeared on me there for a second. Okay, pilot applicant, due to unresolved issues related to complying with both federal and state regulations and requirements, including 2 CFR 200, the Uniform Administrative Requirements, federal awards, PA's Management Directive on Grant Admin, and PA's Procurement Code. We regret to inform you that the Bureau is unable to award AML pilot funds through grants. What's up?
Wow, that is a long question, but I think the text or the crux of it is with respect to 2 CFR 200 is the federal OMB regulations on how money can be utilized. And so there are the difference between being a contractor or a subrecipient, which are terms of art in the federal regulations. And both of those terms and both of those avenues have different requirements associated with them, obligations associated with them. And so as part of this program, there have been various inquiries made as to saying what's the right path to go down, what is the required path to go down. And we're finding out very quickly that it's not clear. And it's not clear just even with the pilot program, but across the government. That's an issue that's faced and wrestled with across the government. So to the questioner, there have been some issues as to how best to deploy those funds, or what I should say, not how best to deploy, but what's required. what kind of categorization, whether using a contractor is okay, or whether we subrecipients, which is a more formalized process, needs to be followed. So things have slowed as a result of that a little bit, and as far as the most recent 2020 grants, but we've been working with not only our state partners, but with the Office of Management and Budget to get some clarity and to try and keep things moving along, to keep that success rolling.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And I think we have run out of time, everyone, for the questions, but Tom, if you need some help from the committee as to how to answer questions that are on the HOOPA website later on, we encourage you to answer everyone's questions. I know there are a lot more and we're running out of time. And so with that presentation, we conclude this year's Pennsylvania Abandoned Mine Reclamation Conference. We thank Tom, we thank all of our speakers, we thank you for joining us. And please join us for the committee goodbye that's next on the agenda. So thank you, Tom, thank you all. We'll